Okay, so welcome back, folks. I know we started off with this bike up in the stand, and we were trying to get the dropper post in, but I kind of wanted to I need to cut the video out because of the fact that, and yes, you'll notice I'm wearing different clothes, by the way. I had to change about halfway through the video, so I didn't really film my whole process of routing the internal dropper for this dropper C post because it was quite ridiculous. I had to pull the cable 2 to 3 times until I figured out the direction to go. I ended up pulling the cable. What I ended up doing is I ended up taking dental floss, which is an old trick, sucking it through with a vacuum cleaner, pulled out all these plugs, sucked the dental floss up through with a vacuum cleaner, got it down here, and then got it out, and then that's what I did. So it was kind of tough to do. It was kind of a pain in the rear end. How I got it, the problem is I could have put the dental floss from here and suck it up this way with a vacuum cleaner. So what I did is I took the internal cable and I kind of just wrapped the dental floss on it and then pushed it down, pushed it around the corner, and then sucked it out that way, and then pushed it up there, and then sucked it out the rest of the way. So that's kind of how I did that. That's how I got the dental floss in. Then I had to pull the internal cable out, or the cable that I used out, and then once I had the dental floss all the way through there, I had to take the cable. So I wanted to keep the cable has it's pretty much like a brake, or not a brake cable, a gear shift cable. So the rounded end that goes into the C post I kept here, and of course I had to you have to put your ferrule end on the inner cable before you put it into the outer cable. So that's one thing to be aware of, which I completely got it routed and realized I hadn't put that on there yet. So a little bit of preparation before you start routing your cables will save you a lot. So I got the cable all the way. Once you get your outer cable, by the way, routed, the inner cable you can shove in and out. So if you were to get your outer cable all the way through here, if I have to replace the inner cable, that's pretty easy to replace the inner cable. Just so you guys know, it's the outer cable that's kind of a problem on this, because the outer cable really doesn't bend very easily, and it's really hard to show you guys. Try to zoom in here. Sorry. But as you can see there, right at the C post, where the C post comes down, it's got that really sharp bend. So this comes all the way down, bends up here, comes up through like this. Okay. The only other way to do it is a KSLEV, like I have for my hardtail, where it's external to here, and then you have it on the outside, and it comes out over the top. So it comes out of the mast. Sorry. So the only other way to do it would be to, like I said, start back. I have a KSLEV that has the piece that comes out of the mast of the C post and comes down to here, right? And then from there, the cable will come up, and on the other side there is actually a rubber spot that, like this, that opens up back here. You can put the cable in there and then have it come out here. Just because of the fact that there's no place to attach to the outside of it. Okay, not a big deal, and then I could have had it come out and around and it would have worked fine. I just wanted to use as much cable. I had to cut way more cable off, and that might sometimes be a better way to go. You would only have like an inch of cable on the outside of the bike, so it would be pretty much virtually internally routed. But just be aware that that would be the only, you'd have a little bit of cable, like you have a little bit of external cable for the rear of the bike. But so I did get it routed. I got the cable all the way down there. I pulled the inner housing the inner cable and the outer cable together. And what I did is I tied kind of like a fly fishing knot on the tip of the inner cable, and I pulled, having the outer cable on it, I pulled the whole thing. By the way, I put some electrical tape on the piece of cable, outer cable, inner cable, because I needed the inner cable and outer cable to pull together and not pull back at all. I needed to keep it tight because the way this sits in there, this is sitting all the way down here pretty much. You can see I still have a little bit of the mass sticking up. I put it down as far as you can go, right to this bend. Okay, so it's right there, about there. You got about that much sticking up, and then I pulled the whole inner and outer cable through, and it's tough. And then the pieces that they have here, this piece was plastic, so I took this part off. If gone through one of those rubber pieces, you could poke a hole through it and push the cable through the rubber. If you want to, that's how these rubber stops are. You could actually kind of cut a little hole in it and then push the cable through it. This is plastic, so I literally just chopped a chunk off the front of it. It puts a little hole there. It's not. There could be a little bit of rattle, but I've been riding around for the last couple days. Or I rode around with it like this, by the way. By the way, this is a day later from when I did the seat post install, so you folks know. So cut this, and then I rode around today, and it doesn't really rattle. So I mean, I could rattle the cable, but I could rattle probably pretty much any of the cables at the bottom. But there's enough cables in there that it doesn't really rattle around when I'm riding, so it doesn't create a problem. So, like I said, this is the, just kind of go over the bike a little bit for you guys. I didn't really get a chance to fully go over the bike. So, starting at the rear, what we got, sorry. So, we got WTB tubeless rims and wheels, 27.5s. They are I believe it's not a 30 mil internal rim width. I believe it's more like a 26 internal rim width. So these some of them you get the internal rim width is so wide that the tire literally just is flat there, but no, it's wide enough the tires don't roll. These are the Tough Toms. I've been looking for some Magic Marys, because Magic Marys are their downhill tires, and a lot of enduro guys ride them. They're very heavy, but they're so hard on the sidewalls that they just absolutely, they don't deform at all with very low tire pressure. Okay, so I'm running about a little bit less than 30, right about 29 in these, 30 in the back, like 28 in the front, and it works fine. I haven't had any deformation or anything so far with the tires. One other thing, by the way, if you go on the website, it explains what these are the equivalent of. The Tough Toms, the only difference, these have the Kevlar, and they have the highest thread per inch of any of all the tires out there. These are just a more budget-orientated tire, like $25 a tire, vice to $65 a tire, and these are the equivalent, like the Knobby Nicks. So they are a pretty good for entry-level tire. They're not bad, the Tough Toms. They just don't have some of the crazy carcasses like you get in the Magic Mary and stuff. Magic Marys are pretty. I don't want to say they're not the most expensive. $65 isn't too bad, but this is the equivalent, like some of the Specialized tires that are like $35. So these aren't bad. You got the NX1 11 drivetrain here. So 1x full SRAM as far as the group set is concerned. So SRAM cranks, as you can see there, and they're not bad. They're actually pretty nice cranks. You got front narrow wide chainring, and you have SRAM's clutch, rear clutch mechs, 11 speed. I know they got the 12 speeds and everything, but this is this is more of a budget orientated bike. So at some point I'm probably going to change it out. Probably going to change the brakes. The two big things I'm going to probably change on this is the brakes And at first I wanted to change out the handlebars, but the handlebars are actually pretty good. Stem's actually pretty good. The oval makes pretty good quality stuff. They're not cheap and junky. It's just, I'm probably going to change out the brakes first, and we might, I don't know, I'll probably, you know, I might not change out the drive system at all. Just probably the brakes. Probably the brakes is it. Get some better brakes. Spend a couple $100 and get some really nice brakes. Some XTRs. Or maybe some XT brakes for $150 or something like that. So $200 will give me some XTRs. If you buy them individually, you can get some XTRs for probably $200. So not too bad. A little bit cheaper than SRAMs. I've thought about doing SRAMs, but they just, not using mineral oil when it gets too hot in certain locations, they just don't work that well. So a SRAM are great. They have some of the best modulation, but Shimano brakes are just bulletproof. So that's probably what we're going to go with, is Shimano brakes. Okay, chain's really good. It's just a SRAM chain, nothing fancy, but they're really good. Obviously, being that we're tubeless ready, next couple days I'm going to throw some sealant in here and fully go tubeless. Okay. So as you can see with the saddle, by the way, this bike is set up that if you wanted to put a front chainring on here, if you absolutely wanted to, you could. And then we're going to zoom in. I'll show you again. Sorry. It's kind of tough. It'll be tough to see. In here, there's the bolts for to put on a bolt-on chain guide. 3 bolts actually. So you can put a bash guard chain guide on if you wanted to. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I think I might get the MRP one that has the guide at the top and then a bash guard at the bottom, so I'm not dealing with a roller guide. So we'll see about that. I don't know yet. I gotta look into it. Okay. Seat post. So we already talked about this seat post, the saddle, and the seat post. SDG. I've seen them out there before. This is really nice. The saddle. It's a perfectly flat saddle, very stiff, titanium rails. Not very expensive. Okay, pretty good deal compared to a lot of the other performance ones. It's extremely flat, which I really like. I like flat saddles. I think I'm going to tilt it back a little bit because it feels a little too tilted forward, so I'm probably going to adjust it a little bit. I did tilt it back from what it originally was, but I still feel it's a little far forward when I'm in the drop position. And I know you're not ever sitting down a whole lot, but it feels a little bit too far forward. So I'm just going to probably crank it just a little bit, because this is an enduro bike and that's what the plans are for. A great saddle, absolutely great saddle, very grippy. Has a very good texture here, and then you got the cloth on the side, and like I said, super lightweight, absolutely awesome. SDG dropper post has been absolutely awesome, and one of the things I really like is the lever that it comes with. It doesn't come with some shoddy lever like a lot of bikes come with. I'm going to show you the kind of lever it comes with. Come over here. That's what it comes standard with, is that type of lever. So you run the cable through, it comes out the back, you tighten this bolt down, and you got to tighten it down really far. It kind of throws you at first, and then you put a little crimp end on the back, and then you got the adjustability here, and yeah, absolutely works great. Great lever. It got texture on there, so you're never going to lose purchase on it. It's absolutely great. Okay, so rear shock. RockShox Monarch, absolutely the Debonair, absolutely great rear shock. Can't say enough about it. With this linkage, and yes, this is kind of this is Fuji's M-Link. Look it up sometime. Go on their website, look it up. Absolutely tremendous linkage system. I'm going to put my camera back up, set it back up, and I will talk about that linkage there. So, okay, so get to the back there. So this is a 5-piece design linkage. I'll try to get out of the shot here for the most part. So what you have basically is you have a main pivot point down here. The arm comes down, it's a solid piece, comes all the way to here. Well, it's not completely solid, but the whole purpose of it is like a single pivot design where it has a pivot point here, back here by the bottom bracket, comes all the way back up here where the wheel comes is got the skewer in, comes all the way up here and connects directly to the shock. Okay, now most single pivot designs, and then a lot of single pivot designs will have some sort of something to stabilize, but a lot of single pivots, the only thing you get is this thing here, or you get a pivot here, and that's it. So the rear end has to be super beefy and heavy, and they're typically not that strong, single pivots. And you get a lot of binding that occurs within the frame and the drivetrain system. You get a lot of kickback on your pedals. It's really annoying. This bike, not a single once doesn't have it, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to show you why. So you got a couple things. You got this M-Link design. So pretty much they call it the M-Link because it does this little M thing here, reverse. Like, so if you look at it this way, it does this little M. So it's an M-Link, right? So like that, right? Okay, so that's why they call it the M-Link. And what you have is they put these 2 pivot bolts here, and this piece pivots is connected to the seat post here. So the seat mast here, that's where you're connecting to the rear link. And this, as you can see, when I push down on this, the seat, see how it's pivoting? This pushes forward, and this stabilizes it against the seat mast and allows the seat mast to come back. Okay, so that's how that's working. Okay, and then of course it pivots right here. So that it's not really that many pivot points because you only have 2 pivot points against the frame, and you have 2 pivot points on this guy. So you have the shock and you have on the M-Link system. But you have this other little piece here. And this is what's really interesting. This is what separates it from the other guys. And you have a bolt here and a bolt there. If you take the rear end off, this would just flex a little bit. Not a lot. It would have a tiny little bit of pivot. It wouldn't be a full pivot like this is. You still want to check these. But this little pivot point here causes a little bit of flex up and down, preventing from the bob, or not the pedal bob, but from the pullback, so that as you're pedaling and this is flexing, this will normally do this. Okay, it'll pull up and kick your feet off. Okay, it doesn't go down because you're putting pressure down, but it pushes up. Okay, it pushes like this and causes your chain, it puts tension on your chain and causes your feet to kick up. If you're not clipped in, you'll kick your feet off. So that's why a lot of guys, a lot of enduro riders especially, and they have more simple link designs, they stay clipped in. Most bikes don't do that anymore. They don't have that issue. Only modern bike company I can think of that has that will do that is the Orange, and that's because it is a true single pivot bike. People that ride it say it's very bouncy and stuff. Just because of that, it bounces around quite a bit. It's really playful, and it's kind of a bouncy bike. But that's what you get, and you got to understand what you get when you get into your bike. You have to understand the linkage you're getting. So this has another brace at the other side for where that linkage is. And it doesn't have it on this side because it's a chainstay, right? But it has it there. It provides a little bit more, how should I say, a little bit more stability on this rear triangle area here, okay? Right, especially in this area, to prevent from this one. It puts a brace here, providing a little bit more stability between these points. This one, it puts it more forward, because you have a tiny pivot point right here. You don't want this to fail, okay? So this part of the triangle, if you hit too hard, welds could fail. So that's why they put the extra bracing in there. It's from the standpoint of realism, because if you look, you got welds when they make these. This is all one solid piece, so they put welds there. You got welds here for the dropouts, all kinds of stuff. Okay, and that's how they build it. So quite a great design. They don't have these in carbon fiber. I'm sure it'd make a great carbon fiber bike. I shouldn't say that. On the website, they only had 2 models. They had this one and one that was priced $1,000 more. $1,000 more. Like I said before, got you a dropper seat post already in, a little bit better brakes, and a step-up drivetrain, step-up brakes, and a step-up fork. And the fork, in my opinion, really, the fork that they're giving you, the only difference is instead of being a Suntour, they're giving you RockShox. And it's not even the top of the line of the RockShox. This is the top of the line Suntour. So I think you're actually getting a better fork. I like this fork a little bit better, in my opinion. Okay, some people might argue with me. They're like, oh, Suntour is never as good as RockShox, and that's baloney. Only in their lower ends are they not as good. Okay, so as you can see, pedals, I got my Crank Brother Melodies on, so that's what I'm running. I thought about running plain flats, but that's what I want. I want the Melodies. I love my Melodies. They're a great pedal. I have the 510 shoes. I'm going to go do a review on those probably after this video. Do another review. Okay. Continue on. Like I said, I love this RockShox rear shock. Absolutely awesome. It's not a lockout, but it does have this. You can switch it, and it does still, but it won't bob for climbing. So it's a climbing switch that they put on there for the debonair. You just flip that, bam, very easy, and then underneath it is your rebound adjust. And of course, right here, nice metal cap for the air. Very easy to change out tokens. Probably gonna put in a couple tokens in there. Put a couple tokens in the front. I'll ramp it up a little bit. Okay. So next. As we go forward on the bike, look at the cockpit here. Of course, we got the standard, just plain Shimano brakes, nothing super fancy. It's what you see on the Diora, plain Diora brakes. That's all they are. They're just generic Shimano brakes, nothing fancy at all. Maybe $50 brakes. So, like I said, that's something that I would upgrade first on this bike. Dropper post brakes. To be honest, do they work? Yes, they stop. Okay, you got 180 mil rotors. The stopping power is fine. It's not the stopping power, it's the fact that these levers are very long. In fact, they're longer than my Elixirs, and my Elixirs are an older brake. And my Elixirs are cut off right to about there. So the lever, as you can see, the lever is a little bit longer than I like. And it's not this portion of the lever that's so long, it's this portion. So if this was like up to here, it'd make it a little bit better. Also, this doesn't have, they're just a standard brake. It doesn't have some of the extra, like the cool off feature that Shimano has on their other brakes. Okay, so do they work? Yes, they work great. I'm not going to complain, but if you're doing some crazy stuff, you might want to have a little bit more modulation, and you're going to get that with a little bit better brake lever. So that's what I would do, and I would probably go with a dual caliper brake. I mean, you got the 180 mil rotors front and rear. Might be able to go with something a little bigger in the front, like 210. But yeah, That's my suggestion. Okay, oval bar and stem, not bad at all. They're pretty good. In fact, the saddle that came with it was a good saddle. It's just I was buying a seat post and I wanted this saddle to match because SDG had the saddle. I thought this saddle looked awesome. It didn't look plain like the oval did, so I got that one. Bar and stems aren't bad, actually. I kind of didn't like the look at first. They're wide. They're 780 mil wide. Very nice wide. 800 would be nice, but it's only 10 millimeters on each side. So it's just out to here. It's just literally like that far. It's not a whole lot. And that's more of a numbers thing than anything. These bars are a little weird because they don't taper quickly, or they don't taper slowly like an average bar does. So like my Giants, they taper a little quick. They taper really quickly, and then the rise is really quick. So it's not a slow rise like you get on your standard bar and stems. If I do change these out, I'm going to go with the Fortes from Performance Bike, and I'm going to go with the carbon fiber, and then I'll just go with the Forte stem, the little what do you call it, the clutch little shorty stem. That's probably what I'll go with because it's not expensive and it looks really good. But the oval doesn't look bad. It's not bad at all. Even their higher end bike uses the same ones. In fact, you buy these. These aren't just something that they make to slap on their bikes. These bars and stems. They sell them on their website, so you can go to Oval and you can buy them. So Oval makes good quality stuff. These are good quality bar and stem. I weighed them. They're not that heavy. Pretty good stuff. Okay. FSA headset, as you can see, external on the bottom, internal on the top. Pretty good stuff. All sealed cartridge bearings, and not bad. Of course, same front wheel in the front. Not going to go over that. But this is your Suntour Aeon fork. So they claim it's a 34 mil stanchion fork. Here on the website you go 35, and then you measure it's a 35 mil stanchion. Okay, so it's the same equivalent what RockShox would do for their 160 mil travel fork. So you got 160 mil travel on the back, you got 160 mil travel in the front, and you go on the website, and this specific fork is their Enduro fork. Okay, this is the best 160 mil travel that they have, that Suntour makes. Okay, you can get them with slightly different options, but I will say this: they run their compression and their rebound differently than a lot of the other brands. They make it simple. So Suntour, they do their high speed, low speed compression all in one adjustment. Or actually two types of adjustments. So if you go on the website, they show you how you do it. If you want high speed compression, you actually change out. There's a way you do the pressure in conjunction with this, and you can change your high speed and low speed compression with using air and your adjustment knob for your compression. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, very simple. So this is the equivalent of your Fox factory or your Fox Performance fork and your any of your RockShox forks. So don't be fooled. Yeah, Suntour does not have their factory a fork that's like the Fox factory fork. No one does, as far as has as much adjustability on it. That Fox borderlines on like kind of confusing for some of their stuff, but that's the point is, when you got a factory fork, it's pro racers and for 90% of the time, and they have a mechanic that's adjusting everything. So that's why they have the adjustment that they have on their forks. Okay, Suntour is more for it's more for the everyday rider that wants something really nice. And I'm telling you, this thing is absolutely phenomenal. So you have the compression over here, you have your air over here, and then of course down here you have your rebound adjust. Okay, and then this has the Q-lock system, which is absolutely crazy, through axle system. So this is a big axle on the front. Okay, so big 15mm axle. This opens up here. All right. So you take this and you pop this open, and then this is the Q-lock on the other side here. If you can see this, try to do this here. So you loosen that up, bam, just like that. And then you take this, you push that in, and you spin it. And what it does is it pushes these pawls in and unlocks them, and then this slides right out. Okay, there's no threads or anything like that. Okay, and then when you want to put it back in, you do the same thing. In fact, let's see if I can do it for you folks. So you take this like so, and you spin it, and it locks into place. See that? Bam, unlocked. Locked. Okay, and then once it's locked into place, this just pops right out. By the way, this is boost front and rear, boost spacing. So the cool thing is the tire and the front tire and the rear tire sit inside a groove. Okay, and so there is your quick release. Okay, and then you just spin it again and it releases just like that. It's just a, see the action on that? It's actually like a quick release. So this pulls this in and tightens it up, and that's what keeps the tire in. Keeps this from coming out, okay? So that's the Q-lock system. And then this isn't rubber, it's a piece of plastic, so it's actually putting tension on it. It's not, this ain't gonna break, it's metal and plastic, or metal and heavy polymer right there. This whole thing is, you know, aluminum, stainless steel. Not gonna break this thing. And then if I want to put this back in, I push that like that. It, the pawls, watch this carefully. See, the pawls are out. Push them. Got to hold the other side. Push them. The pawls go back in. Sorry about that. And then you just push it in like so. Undo the pawls, or so they pop out. And then you just push up on it. Okay, so the cool thing is, even if this was to loosen up, the quick release was to get loose, it still can't pop out. Okay, so it's not going anywhere. But the thing ain't gonna come loose. It's just really not. So that's the Q-lock system. I absolutely love it because it's extremely quick to pop your front wheel out. You don't have to sit there and spin a quick, or put an Allen key or anything like that. The rear uses Allen key. Obviously you have your tools for that, so not a big deal. But that's, like I said, for the front wheel that you need to probably take out a little quicker. That's the way they do that. Also, it's made so you can put it in bike racks, things like that. Okay, so hopefully, folks, you guys enjoyed this video for the new bike, the Fuji Auric. So this is, like I said, all mountain. They're all mountain bike. That's what they're calling it. Really is a enduro bike, but since enduro bikes are now 170, 180 mil travel, they're not calling it that. They're calling it the all mountain. But hopefully, you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys want to find one of these, they do have the performance bicycles. So just look up your closest performance bicycle. They're in most of the states, both on the East Coast and West Coast, all over the place. So well worth the money. They're, like I said, 2 models. I'd go with the more expensive model. That's my recommendation. They just didn't have that one, so I went with this and did some upgrades, of course. So I think the other parts, the brakes and the drivetrain and the dropper post, are probably worth the extra $1,000. But if you're smart, do what I did. You can get an inexpensive dropper post. With Performance Bike, if you have their membership plan, you can get this and some of the upgrades that I got on it for free anyways. So if you buy the bike, so it doesn't, you're getting pretty much the upgraded bike with spending a little bit less money. So that's it for me today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was really long, going over the new bike and how to do some of the install stuff. But if you liked it, make sure you give us a thumbs up. As always, where was it? Click up here, subscribe to the channel. There's a button there. And then over here we got another video for you. So as always, keep riding.